We got some new friends of the film in the audience, old friends from Lorain, a lot of folks from the film, and Kristy Walker, director of photography.
Thanks.
Take it away.
Hi, thanks. Hi, everybody. I am going to introduce Max. Max met Jason Molina at Oberlin College. Jason was literally swinging from a lamppost on Main Street and thought, I want to go where this guy is going tonight. Tommy and I first met Max in Providence, Rhode Island, the day before we interviewed him at William Schaff's Fort Foreclosure in Warren, Rhode Island. Please welcome Max Winter.
Thank you, Kristy. I met Jason in Oberlin, a place he was relatively new to, but not as new to as he said he was. He had told me when I first met him that he didn't even know Oberlin existed, and we later found out, I can't even remember when, that he was actually born in Oberlin. So that was my first introduction to Jason's propensity to tell a good story as opposed to the most accurate one. That's the Jason that everyone knows in some ways, whether you know him through his music or you know him personally, or both, as we all do here. I would like to introduce, first and foremost, Carl Raponi, who met Jason at the age of 5 in Lorain at camp, but they reconnected later when they were teenagers and formed a band called Chronic Insanity. This is when Jason was in junior high. And then they came to found Spineriders, a band that still exists, happily. And Jason played bass in that, and Carl played drums. Carl, you contributed, among other things, not only an interview, but a song. What song?
Rework of Soul.
Did you play with Jason when he was sort of transitioning from Spineriders to like what became Bleem?
More, I think, closer towards yes, I guess it would be going into Bleem. It was me and Todd and Jason. We were kind of toying around with some of that sound in the basement of Todd's house.
I mean, it's interesting, like hearing your version of Soul and hearing how, you take those chords and you play them and you hear just sort of, among other things, the metal roots that were just never left Jason's music and were so important to him. I mean, that's the first mode in which he really played music seriously. I know in like our early version of Songs of Ohio, people sometimes had trouble hearing that element of it, but it was always there, but not necessarily in any kind of like overt stylistic way. In that project, Spineriders, and then in Bleem, as was noted, as well as in very earliest version of what would become Songs of Ohio, Todd Jacops is here.
Hi, Max.
Hi, Todd. And Todd is not Lou Barlow. You might think he is, but actually Jason, another one of his early stretchers or lies was that Jeff Cummings was Lou Barlow. He would introduce him to people as Lou Barlow. And Jeff couldn't look less like Lou Barlow. And you, of course, increasingly do look a little bit like him. That first Bleem, that first Bleem, but you didn't at the time, though, interestingly. No. Even though that first Bleem tape was dedicated to Lou Barlow, wasn't it? Is that right?
I mean, it might have been. We were definitely influenced by that lo-fi kind of thing that was going on at that time. And it was also sort of out of necessity because I just had a cheap 4-track and a cheap microphone. Yeah. Guess what it sounds like when you record with stuff like that,
Exactly.
So, and maybe it was just encouraging to see that artists, musicians were doing that we respected.
No, I mean, it was not it was as much as sort of an ethical shout out and a kind of like, as it was an aesthetic shout out. It was just more of an idea of just capturing it in the moment. First idea, best idea, which was something that he never let go of, even as the records became more polished, amazingly.
Yeah.
He always kept that ethos of just like, get it down on tape, move on, write as many songs as possible, record them whenever possible, and move on. And what Songs of Ohio, just for the benefit of everyone who's attending, what Songs of Ohio records did you play on?
The first 2 7-inches, one that was on Palace Records, and the first record that was on Secretly Canadian, the Black Album, and Heckler and Groiper.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And so you played on that first tour in '97, correct? Was that
Yep.
was the first like Songs of Hyatt tour with
Yeah, summer.
Jeff
Yeah.
and Mike McCartney, right?
Yep. Mike was on some of those shows. Yep.
Yeah.
He's in here somewhere.
Yeah. I think did he show up?
Yeah, he's here.
I can't keep track of everybody. All right, cool. Well, we're gonna get to him. But first, Reilly. Is Reilly there? Reilly Lambert.
Yeah, right here.
Okay, Reilly. I don't know that I mean, you probably don't remember, but I remember you. I just remember you as someone who would always show up when Jason was playing. In Oberlin,
Yeah.
like house parties.
Yeah.
And you could always be counted on. You met Jason when and where?
I think it was 87 or 88. I can't remember the year, but we all had mullets, and he was at a community center somewhere on the lake, maybe Sheffield Lake, for some like metal cover band.
Okay, so did you see you knew him first and foremost then as a musician initially? Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like we were all starting bands like in junior high, and then Chronic Insanity was like the band to look to.
But I was always impressed by your presence, always being there, because some of those shows.
I didn't want to be in Lorain, so Oberlin was much more welcoming.
Yeah, no, it was cool. But like, I feel like half of those shows weren't even like announced or planned, or they were spontaneous, and yet somehow you were always there. It was kind of incredible, a precognition,
good time,
seemingly. Unless Jason was, of course, not telling the full truth about whether or not the show had been planned or the performance had been truly impromptu.
I honestly don't know how we actually ever knew when shows were happening anyways back then without Facebook or like a cell phone or something. So
I think flyers.
I think you just drive around until you find out what's going on.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But Jason, back in those days, in before he was Songs of Hyatt, and he was just Sparky, as he was known to people and many people in Oberlin. I for example, didn't find out his name was Jason, I think, until 2 years after I'd known him. And that's how he played his first few shows in Oberlin, and also his first like real show outside of Oberlin in New York. He was billed as Sparky, and that was when he was playing with Palace Brothers. And I can't even remember when the Songs of Hyatt. You were there for that, Todd. When did it become Songs of Hyatt more or less officially? You remember what year that was?
It had to be right before the Palace 7-inch, I think.
Yeah, but like
I feel like I mean, he probably had the idea, but I think because we were doing that official release, I think it seemed like he essentially decided right then. That's the name.
Yeah, but
I know he was messing around with that kind of approach though for a while. Songs appended by something,
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so I think maybe there was just a process, and it sort of ended up on that one.
I can attest to the fact that it was a logo before it was a band name. Mm-hmm. I mean, and by logo I mean just that sort of iconic crossbow and shield and cross configuration. He had been sketching that for at least a year, sort of compulsively on every cocktail napkin and notebook he had before he had come up with the name, quite accidentally. But Mike, is Mike McCartney here now? Hey, Mike.
My McDonald's ear thing on. I hope that works.
Mike, you played in that initial Songs of Hyatt tour right in '97. How many people were showing up to those shows? I only went to one. I went to the one in Providence, which was fairly well attended, but in large part because he had so many friends there and something of a reputation, having played a bunch of songs the year prior. But what was the sort of reception and attendance like when you were out in the wild?
I remember we played at a vegan restaurant, something like that, in Louisville. And there was a punk rock band, so that was memorable to me. I remember playing at the Bottle in Chicago, and it was like it was like a empty bottle, something like that. It was a Puerto Rican neighborhood, but it was I think it was well attended, and it was like simulcast on the web, if I remember right.
Really?
somehow. I don't know if that's in the ether somewhere or not.
Amazing. I mean, yeah, not a lot was recorded back then. And Mike, you actually were a Spineriders member as well, along with Todd and Carl. If you could just tell everyone in attendance a little bit about like how you came to be a bandmate of Jason's, not once but twice.
I was in college, freshman year of college, so that was 88, 89. And he said, there's these kids in Lorain that have a band and they want a singer. And I guess Jason's probably 16 or 15. So I was like, I don't give okay, let's jam. And we pretty much just practiced like Christmas break, Thanksgiving, and then summer we hit it hard. And so 80, 89, we started playing.
Awesome. And like I loved a lot of your playing on that those early recordings, and just sort of the kind of spare approach you had, sort of echoing and comping some of Jason's stuff. It was a really interesting style, and very different, obviously, from the Spineriders. How did you sort of come to find a way to play with him in this new mode?
You know what? I sucked in that role, in that capacity. I wanted to go, rah! And I wasn't used to, strumming something nice. And I honestly, I felt like I didn't fit in, and which is cool, but I did my best to strum a G chord or whatever tuning he's in, and I was I was a very short timer with songs.
But memorable though. Some real good recordings there. And another short timer, as many of us were and are, is Bruce Cummings. Where's my brother Bruce?
Brother Max.
There you is. I had to spend
Sorry, I gotta get my glasses on here.
Yeah, I had to spend more time than you might believe trying to convince Kristy and Tommy that I was me and you were you in 1998.
Yes, I know.
And I had
those pictures up multiple times.
He didn't believe me, and I had to bring in supplementary materials. We don't always look.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. Yeah.
This is Bruce.
And it's
Cummings.
good to see you, Max.
Yeah.
From nighttime in London. Bless your heart.
Now, Bruce is also a member of Songs of Ohio around the same time that I was in the band briefly in '98, and went on tour with his brother Jeff, who's not here, I don't think, right, Bruce?
I don't know. I don't know how this stuff works. So
nope,
I can't see why.
Bruce is currently has a band of his own called Becoming Projections, and they contributed a song to the soundtrack as well. We've talked a lot about performing with Jason and playing with him, and the beauty and difficulty of collaborating with Jason. What did you sort of learn as a Songs of Ohio, and how do you carry that with you now as a Becoming Projections?
Playing with him, it is fun because it's a little hard because we were all in the moment, being 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Listening to the similar things, all that in the moment. So there's a lot of in the moment. Yeah. Playing with him, basically the weird shit he was doing somehow just made sense anyways, even though it was totally different from the stuff we were listening to and playing. But it all made sense back then. Anything made sense in the early 90s, right? So, and then just soaking it in. And, being a smaller town and us all feeling like, all the music we were hearing coming in from the coasts and the cities, it's that classic thing that so many Ohio musicians have said that no one told you it was wrong to do, so just do it. There was that element of that. Playing with him, again, that was both simple but also challenging, because he was, as in the documentary we talk about more, he was not tuned to standard. Not only was he not tuned to standard tuning, but he also wasn't tuned to a tuner. Yeah. So you have to tune to whatever he was tuned to, and go from that. And it all made sense once we got into it. Playing normal chords over is to get to the finishing of the question was hard to do. So on the tour, I was playing standard tuning, but tuned down because he was not on a tuner. But then after the fact, to answer your larger question, I can't help but think that his style just seeped into the things I was doing too. And as years went on, I started playing mostly in open tunings myself and stranger tunings. And then came across the fact that actually DADGAD, which is known as Celtic tuning, but it's if you play weird like I do, it can do a lot of things. And it actually is the closest thing to his 4-string. I'm pretty sure basically his 4-string tenor guitar stuff was essentially DADG or very close to it, because those chords end up making more sense. Or I morphed and probably just playing with him and hearing him all those years, I ended up morphing. I'm sure it made it into the way that I play. Does that answer a little bit?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's cool.
It was both easy and strange to play with him at the same time.
Easy and hard.
And hard.
Strange and normal. Yeah. We also have William Schaff here, the bemasked William Schaff. Good to see you, by the way, William.
Good to see you again, man. It was so much fun when you were here at the fort.
And we were playing the songs from The Lioness.
His own world within his music.